and Aphrodite, and Mary in Catholicism. I do not believe all Catholics believe that. But that is the doctrine of the Catholic Church. She is the Queen of Heaven. If you go to Portland, to the grotto, you can see Mary's chapel. And inside, you can see her ascending from the cross. Holy Mother of God. So it's all that part. And so now here's the interesting thing. This all happened, all this doctrine, all these things about Tammuz happened before Jesus came to the earth. So is what we believe in regards to the gospel story, it has pagan roots. Wasn't this story made up before Jesus came to the earth? Yes, but listen. Actually, no. Genesis 3:15. God told Satan, I will put enmity between you and the woman, between your seed and her seed, and he shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. Way back in Genesis chapter 3, God promises he's bringing a Redeemer, and Satan had to try and figure some stuff out. He had to prevent it. He had to prevent it. Remember, Adam gave him the title deed to the earth. Satan was now the god of this world because Adam gave it to him by sinning. He became the god of this world. And let me tell you something. Lucifer, the archangel who became Satan, was no dummy. He knows the heart of God. He knows God's love. He knows his heart to redeem. And he was somehow able to piece together, amazingly so, how was God going to fulfill this promised seed? Because he knew once that promised seed came, it was the end of him. So let me tell you, Lucifer or Satan got real busy about trying to figure out how to diffuse that. Thus the reason for sons of God on the earth, the giants, the Nephilim. And he almost won. Only 8 souls were left. Think about that now. The whole earth was populated. Think of it. Let's just say it was as big as it is now. It was probably bigger. That is, there are probably more people per capita. But let's just give it, imagine only 8 people in this entire earth being saved. And the rest were all corrupted. He almost did it. That's why God had to flood the earth. He had to destroy it and get these people away and deal with the Nephilim that were taking over, these mutant giants that were taking over. So he knew that God was going to fulfill his promise, and so now he inspires Nimrod. And Nimrod, as you know, was the son of Cush, Canaan's brother. And do you remember what Noah told him? That he was cursed. Canaan would be cursed. That whole lineage. So Canaan's brother is the one who gives birth to Nimrod, who begins to say, I'm going to rebel. He names him Rebel. He names him We Will Rebel. Because something in them, they grew hard to, hey, we've been cursed, so we're going to curse. We're going to deny God. And so Satan begins to inspire Nimrod and his wife Semiramis to create this mystery religion in order to discredit the true story when it came. So he was going to try and figure out everything he could so that when the truth came, people would go, oh, I've heard that before. I've heard that before, yeah. Yeah, I know all about that. Semiramis, yeah, she had a child, virgin, or she had a child without a man, yeah. I know all about that. It was a familiar story. And so, keep in mind, though, guys, whenever there's a counterfeit, there's a truth behind it. Like what my pastor said is, you can't pass a $17 bill. That's counterfeit. You can't do it. It's got to be a 5 or 10 or 20. But if you're handing out $17 bills, they don't exist. So it's not counterfeit. What's counterfeit is something that looks just like the bill. Okay? And that's what Satan was out to do. The Bible calls him the author of confusion. And how many people do you know find religion confusing? Oh, there's just so many religions. I just don't know about this. Hey, Lucifer, man. Getting behind this and getting through every culture to take this story of Semiramis, to take the story of Nimrod and Tammuz and create this story and corrupt every particular government or every culture with false religion so that they would just destroy themselves. How many know false religion destroys other things? It just doesn't work. Even in Christianity, when the wrong people started taking over, and the Crusades and all the terrible things that were going on in the name of Christ, counterfeit, man. But if the roots are pagan, when it comes to Christmas and Easter, should we really observe them? Well, I want you to turn to John 10, please. Let's look at that. Some of you have already gone through this, but I think it's important that you understand this. So when you see Christmas trees come up in the church, and the kids go out for a bunny hunt and all that, or egg hunt and all that, in John chapter 10, interestingly enough, Jesus is speaking about how he's the good shepherd. He lays down his life for the sheep. But then we read in verse 22, it says, "Now it was the feast of dedication in Jerusalem, and it was winter." What is the feast of dedication? It's called Hanukkah. It was never a feast commanded by the Lord to keep. It was a custom and a tradition of the rededication of the second temple in Jerusalem as Judas Maccabeus, the Maccabean revolt it's called, came against Antiochus Epiphanes, against Hugh Jobs, and defeated Antiochus. Antiochus is known as one who thought he was God, claimed to be God, goes into the temple and he squirts blood and throws pig's blood all over the temple to desecrate it. Jesus called it the abomination of desolation. And he compared it to the coming abomination of desolation, that one would come in the future just like that individual, just sort of like Antiochus in the future, when he says, when you see the abomination of desolation, meaning it's a future event as well. But when they heard the abomination of desolation, they would remember this story, the Maccabean revolt. And Judas Maccabeus, man, they took it over and they began to rededicate the temple. The problem is they only had enough oil to keep it lit in the temple for one day. And it was going to take several days before they could bring oil to the temple. And they were, what are we going to do? So they had lit the candle, they had lit the menorah, and miraculously, for 8 days it stayed lit, and that's why the Jewish people celebrate Hanukkah. It's all about that moment in history. Now the question is, did it really happen? We really can't prove it. We know that the Maccabean revolt happened. We have that in history books. But we don't know if this particular menorah lasting 8 days really happened. So why did Jesus celebrate it if it didn't happen? And why would Jesus go to it if it was not commanded? Why would Jesus partake of something and observe something that was not necessarily a command from God? Well, let's see what he says. It's the Feast of Dedication in Jerusalem, and it was winter, and Jesus walked in the temple in Solomon's porch. He's there checking it out and being a part of the celebration. Then the Jews surrounded him and said to him, "How long do you keep us in doubt? If you are the Christ, tell us plainly." Jesus says, "I've been trying to tell you, you don't believe. The works that I do in my Father's name, they bear witness of me. But you do not believe because you are not my sheep. As I said to you, my sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me." Now, these next few verses hopefully can set some of you free who are a little bit worried about your assurance of salvation. Because it says then, "My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me, and I give them," not they earn, "I give them eternal life, and they shall never perish, neither shall anyone snatch them out of my hand." That's pretty assuring stuff.
Hallelujah.
"My Father, who has given them to me, is greater than all, and no one is able to snatch them out of my Father's hand." That's two hands. Good stuff, huh? I'm in God's hands, and I'm in the Son of God's hands. Why? Because this is why he came to this whole thing. He says, "I and my Father are one." Jesus was saying, "I am God." Why do I say that? Because the next verse, the Jews took up stones to stone him. They wanted to kill him. He was blaspheming in their sight. But Jesus answered, "Many good works I have shown you from my Father. For which of those works do you stone me?" And the Jews answered him, saying, "For a good work we don't stone you. We're not coming down on you because you don't do good things, but for blasphemy, because you being a man make yourself God." Jesus was saying, "I'm God." So Jesus uses the lighting of the menorah, a traditional event, to proclaim who he is. Isn't that interesting? Because the purpose, as they're lighting the candles, of course, what was Jesus doing? The Bible tells us that he is the light of the world. And the purpose of light is to help us see things more clearly. He came to enlighten them and to tell them who he was. And the picture was beautiful as the candles were being lit and the brightness, and they surround him. And he goes, "Hey, I've been trying to tell you guys who I am, but you don't want to believe me." So Jesus takes what are customs, traditions, and he turns it around to enlighten people about himself. So rather than shouting at the darkness and saying, "That's pagan, that's wrong, you shouldn't do that, that's all this," you can turn it around and say, "You know, you're right, these are pagan in root. But you know, Jesus came to redeem." And so I'm going to use this opportunity during Christmas to speak of the tree, which is the cross, and the gifts he's made for man under the tree. And when I look up at the tree, at the star on top of the tree, I can share with my kids or friends about the Star of Bethlehem. I can redeem those customs and traditions because in and of themselves they're not evil, unless I'm going, oh, Tammuz at my Christmas tree, then you're in trouble. Okay? But you're not doing that. You're doing it to glorify Jesus. And the lights on the tree, it's the light of the world. Man, they're just loaded with beautiful pictures of Jesus Christ. So you can do that with the holidays. Easter, of course, is the pagan name, but Jesus did rise from the dead, and there's huge historical evidence of that. So you don't have to call it Easter. I like to call it Resurrection Day. because he rose again. But if you call it Easter,